This is Hannah Davison. I'm the development editor for our Sex and Sexuality project. Our first instalment covered an institutional history of the Kinsey and its place in establishing sexology as a discipline. The second module will focus on self-expression, community, and identity, with a wide variety of personal papers and organisational records sourced from multiple archives. This module explores the history of human sexuality from the perspective of the individual and the community from a grassroots level. So one of the personal stories we're including, which I'd like to highlight, is that of Anne Lister, who lived from 1791 to 1840. Anne is a historical lesbian figure who's recently gained fame in popular culture as the protagonist of a successful BBC TV show. Anne was a wealthy English landowner managing her family estate of Shibden Hall, and she kept extensive diaries throughout her life, documenting her world travels, estate business, and in code, her various relationships with women. She filled 27 volumes within her lifetime, or around 7,700 pages, or 5 million words. And for reference, this is around 4 times more prolific than the iconic diarist Samuel Pepys. So approximately a sixth of the diaries are written in a cipher of Lister's own devising, documenting accounts of her relationships with women and most private inner thoughts. Lister suddenly died while travelling in 1840, and the diaries remained at Shibden Hall until the 1890s, when a descendant, John Lister, started publishing extracts from them in local newspapers as a historical document of daily life earlier in the century. Local interest in the diaries led to work on cracking the code, and what they discovered was so alarming in the climate of criminal prosecution of same-sex relationships at the time that the diaries were hidden and kept secret until John's death in 1933. The estate was then opened as a museum, and the contents were transferred to a local archive, and various researchers discovered the nature of the coded sections of the diaries, but confirmation of Anne Lister's sexuality was a closely guarded secret until the 1980s, when transcripts started to be published. So despite cover-ups since, it's now believed that her sexuality wasn't completely secret while she lived. She had one of the first de facto lesbian marriages in modern history, celebrating the companionship with her partner Anne Walker in 1834 at a church. The couple then openly lived together in Shibden Hall, and we have such a rich first-hand account of this in her diaries, an indication that at least her close family were aware of the true nature of their relationship. The diaries are clearly an important historical document of the time they were created, preserving the voice of a woman who did not conform to gender or sexuality conventions of the early 19th century, and was only able to do so because of her unique social and financial position. But they can also be used as a lens to explore changing attitudes towards human sexuality in the 2 centuries since they were created, and as a touch point to add context to other historical material we're including in the project. From the 1890s, when the contents of the diaries were so dangerous that they had to be kept secret, we're also publishing contemporary records of criminal prosecution based on sexuality from the UK National Archives. If we then look at the mid-20th century, when the diaries were preserved as a research source, but knowledge of their content was restricted, we can contextualise this with other collections we're publishing that document tentative steps towards the liberation of different sexualities and gender identities, and autobiographical accounts of same-sex relationships that still had to be kept mostly hidden. But then by the time we get to the late 20th century, when extracts from the diaries started to be published, they can then be seen in the context of the emerging gay pride movement, which is documented in the many organisational records and collections of ephemera we're digitising. This brings the diaries' relevance right back up to the present day, when Anne Lister's life can be celebrated in a mainstream TV show, and the publication of her full diaries can be seen as part of rewriting the history of sexuality. In fact, in 2011, the diaries were inscribed in the UNESCO UK Memory of the World Register, in recognition of their substantial cultural significance to the UK. This is just one of the many stories we'll be bringing to light in our forthcoming project, many of which are manuscript collections that we'll be making searchable for the first time with HTR. So I hope you will get to know more of them.